Welcome to Sweet Valley Diaries, the podcast where the line of morally acceptable behavior is drawn somewhere between stealing your good friend's fiancé because you think he might be a Rockefeller and hiding a box of mixed drugs under your bathroom sink.
Book 19.
Showdown.
Jessica and Lila are in love. Lila?
Mm-hmm.
Lila?
Lila.
Jessica and Lila are in love with the same boy. On our cover, though, it's a little ragged, so it just says, Jessica and Lila are in love with the Sam.
But this boy's name is not Sam. His name is Jack. Mm-hmm. And your name is Mark Sullivan. Hi,
yes,
Mark.
Yes, it is. Hello.
Welcome to Sweet Valley Diaries.
Thank you for having me.
Mark Sullivan, you are, as the newest guest on Sweet Valley Diaries, the next in a long line of people that are all sort of a jumble together, but the listeners are not aware.
Oh, okay.
In episode 8, I think, the one about Bill Chase and the surfing, Russ Nickel was my guest.
Russ Nickel.
And then 11, the first episode of season 2, with the one about Suzanne Devlin, listeners. Will Stribling.
Yes,
and Sinead Prasad were my guests. Sinead mentioned a movie called Bear With Us.
Bear With Us.
Will directed that movie, and Will and Russ co-wrote that movie.
That's right.
Mark...
I was in Bear With Us.
Mark starred in the movie.
And I think another participant in your podcast, Alex Jennings, worked on the film as well. She was there as well. Yeah.
She was in one of my favorites, Dear Sister, Book 7, which is the one where Elizabeth comes out of a coma and has a different personality.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did it ever get resolved?
Well, you tell me, because here we are, 12 books later.
Yeah, book 19. You're well into their junior year.
Right.
Although, is it perpetually their junior year?
It is perpetually their junior year. And the coma book really was confusing in that regard because she was in the, recuperating for a month.
Yeah.
And so that's a big chunk of time. This particular book takes place over, a week or so?
Yeah, a week or two?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot happens.
Yeah.
I think, if nothing else, Sweet Valley High is a testament to how radically our lives can change in a very short amount of time.
That's beautiful.
In a New York minute.
In a Sweet Valley minute.
In a Sweet Valley minute.
We should start saying that.
Yeah, in a Sweet Valley minute.
Listeners, start saying that. We're going to make that a thing. Mark, you and I can start
hashtag.
It first.
Yeah,
or
start
we
a
have
hashtag.
Started it now. You've started it. I'm number 2. Listener, be on the race to become number 3.
Yeah, let's get it up there. Let's get that trending.
So, well, what do you think? How did Elizabeth strike you? Did she seem like she was just recovering from a personality change coma?
Well, that changes everything. So first of all, I'd never read any of these before. I read number 19 pretty cold, being introduced to the world of Sweet Valley High. And I found Elizabeth to be pretty much the only sympathetic character that I encountered. I really liked Elizabeth. I thought she was awesome. She was independent and smart and kind of type A. She didn't take any, guff from her twin. When there was a problem, she was the one who was going to solve it. It's interesting. The storylines kind of converge around Elizabeth having to figure out how or whether to solve all of these different challenges.
Listeners, I am sitting here grinning as if Mark is complimenting me directly, because that's how deeply I relate to Elizabeth, listeners are probably aware.
Here's a question, though. Was she like that before her coma? And when did the coma happen?
She was like that before her coma,
okay.
and immediately after the coma, she was a total crazy bitch. Like someone else we know that looks just like...
Yeah.
Only it was actually cool. She was worse than Jessica. She out Jessica.
Which is,
and forced Jessica into the Elizabeth role because she was so worried about her sister that she had to muster all of her responsibility to keep things in line. It was beautiful.
Yeah, but that didn't really take. I would imagine by the next book, they'd just kind of reverted to...
I mean, it's as if you have already read the books, Mark. Well, you know what?
All right, I need full disclosure. I've been reading them since I was 13 years old, passionately, under the pillow with a flashlight.
That would be like a Sweet Valley High level of weird dark secret.
Yeah.
That you were just pretending.
That I was actually a super fan?
Not so much that you had read them when you were young, but that you were so ashamed of it that you had to pretend like you didn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of shame and secrecy in Sweet Valley, which is interesting that it's so ironically named.
Well, and then, and then your shame about having read the books drives you to this weird place, the edge of sanity between like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of duality.
I imagine I've stolen like my fabulously wealthy uncle's speedboat, and I've gotten somehow into like drug running, and like maybe there's like a helicopter involved. And
all the stories you tell people from your life are really just stories you gleaned from reading Sweet Valley.
Sweet Valley High.
But now you're on the run from the law. There you go. Mm-hmm. Cool. That's great. We figured it out.
So
we should talk about the cover of the book. It's so
we really should.
Good. It's so good.
All right, let's look at this thing. Yeah. So we've got a blonde and a brunette. The blonde has kind of feathered hair and is glaring at the brunette, who's looking out at the reader, who's kind of looking for approval, maybe, or is dismissing the reader. It's very interesting. Yeah. Like the brunette seems to be trying to engage externally, and the blonde is clocking the brunette with real malice.
Right. So, of course, the blonde is Jessica Wakefield. Yeah. The brunette is Lila Fowler. Jessica and Lila are both dressed sort of dumpily for two glamour queens.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jessica's who kind of looks like Debbie Harry.
Yeah, and in the book 18 episode, I said that a character named Regina looked just like a young Jennifer Connelly. But, oh my gosh, Lila looks way more like young Jennifer Connelly than Regina does.
Straight out of Labyrinth.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to have to post the same picture to Instagram that I did last time.
It looks like Jessica's wearing a short sleeve. I would say that's kind of like a silky kind of shirt or blouse. Yeah.
It's kind of a teal color. Yeah. And then I think Lila's wearing a gray sweatshirt, which is really weird.
That's interesting for her, given that she's so... Oh, but she's wearing pearls. She's wearing...
Oh, well, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Oh, looks kind of nice. Yeah. Maybe it's not a sweatshirt. It's a sweater of some sort. But
it's not what I expected.
You're right, though. The power dynamics are just, like, the power poses are interesting. Because they're both doing a real power pose.
They're both doing power poses.
But Lila's looking out at us, whereas Jessica is glaring at Lila.
Yeah. It's interesting. I would rank, just in looking at that, it looks like Lila is more in a position of authority. Like, if I were to encounter that on the street, I would think Lila was hierarchically... like in a stronger position than Jessica, who is aspiring or wants something from her.
Well, I think that's a very good point, and I think that bears out in the story here. One thing that doesn't really come up in the book, I don't think, is that Jessica is angry at Lila in the end of the last book for purposefully writing a bad term paper for Jessica.
Well, come on, Jessica.
Yeah, right. But Lila gets a B- on her own paper and
dance with
a
the
D.
devil, you're gonna get burned. She's cheating on a term paper.
Right.
Like, whose fault is that, Jessica?
Yeah, that's the lesson she should have learned.
Yeah.
Instead, she learns the lesson that she's going to get
Vengeance.
back at that witch Lila.
Yeah.
And she.
Maybe that is the right lesson.
Maybe so.
No personal accountability.
I mean,
outward projection
seems to be the lesson Jessica keeps on learning.
Go on the attack.
So,
it's kind of Trumpian in her approach.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk politics?
If we're not, we've been breaking that rule left and right. Not today, but throughout the entire history of this podcast.
Because I have some thoughts.
Okay. You don't say. Yeah. You don't say.
All right, but...
Lila definitely is the person... The whole friendship between Lila and Jessica is fraught and doesn't even really quite feel like a friendship.
I was just going to ask, can I ask, is this a friendship? It seems absolutely not one. It seems really conniving and really vicious, and I don't see at any point why or how they work together. Why it doesn't look like they like each other.
Yeah.
I think they're enemies.
In this book, they definitely are enemies, but it does make you think. Throughout the books...
Who our actual enemies are? And how close they are in our lives.
Throughout the series, there are these 3 girls that Jessica has this group of girls. It's her, Kara Walker, who is consistently
C-A-R-A.
consistently referred to as Jessica's best friend. Mm-hmm. And they have this 3rd friend in Lila. But there is a lot of animosity always between them.
Yeah, what's going on with Kara? Can we talk about that?
Sure, what do you want to talk about?
Well, all I know is that she likes to eat. That seems to be like a recurring theme. Right? She's stealing Lila's like shrimp salad
salad.
Remember that? And then like eating macaroni and cheese and then stealing the sandwich. Like there's this whole like undercurrent with Kara. I think they just kind of ran out of ideas for people and they're like, "Oh, I know. How about a character who likes food?"
Yeah, I actually think it was just something to have some action in the scene that was happening.
Okay.
Because generally
again,
that's not
I'm
a
lacking
trait.
context of the whole series because I picked up
Kara
wink right on number 19 and wasn't reading them under my pillow with a flashlight, so I really only know the text I have before me.
Kara actually doesn't appear that much in this book. It's mostly... And Lila and Jessica don't interact a whole lot in this book. Right? I mean, There's the cafeteria incident.
Yeah. Is Kara the one they go to... God, they say it like 5 times in 3 paragraphs. The restaurant, the fast food restaurant, where they're getting clam specials.
Casey's.
Yeah.
Yes, listeners, the clam special makes an appearance, a reappearance in this book.
Special.
Clam special. I think we need some sort of clam special alarm.
Like tracker?
Every time the clam special tracker.
Is there a sound that a clam makes that we could, like every time it comes up in a book, you can ring it? Like what?
Let's make that a thing now. I was pretty happy that the clam special came back up.
Yeah. Can I find the passage?
The clam special always comes back up.
Oh.
But...
Dairy Burger.
Dairy Burger.
Yeah, so they meet up at Dairy Burger. Jessica made a left turn and headed toward Dairy Burger. And then a couple sentences later, Jessica stated emphatically, pulling into the Dairy Burger. And then one sentence later, "Oh, listen," Kara informed her, as they entered the Dairy Burger. Like they really there was like a clear progression of how close they were to the Dairy Burger, which I think is interesting. It's an interesting detail. Like,
I don't know how I could have forgotten the Dairy Burger. I thought it was Casey's that had a clam special, but
maybe they were making a joke. Maybe it was an inside joke about the clam special at Dairy Burger. Why would you eat clams at a place called Dairy Burger?
Can I read a little section of what we're talking about? Listeners, I promise we'll get to what this book is about, but come on. I promised, I said. And now I think I'll go up and get some food. I'm absolutely famished after that practice. Their cheerleading practice.
"Oh, can you order for me too?" Kara asked, sweeping her fingers through her long dark hair.
"Why not?" Jessica offered. "I'll even order for you, Lila." She shot Lila one of her patented fake smiles. "What'll it be? 2 clam specials?" Lila and Kara groaned in unison.
Don't even say that, Jess. Just thinking about those clam specials is dangerous. Yeah. We could go on.
But Lila ends up saying, "I'll take a fish sandwich and a tab." A tab.
Yes, and that's how we know we're back in the 80s.
Yes. So...
Yeah, they mentioned Dairy Burger like 5 more times. It's such a specific thing, which I don't know, maybe they were thinking in terms of like cinematically. Like, maybe they were like, exterior, Dairy Burger. And then interior, they're just moving us through the progression.
It's occurring to me right now that Casey's is an ice cream parlor, and how fucked up it is that the ice cream parlor is called Casey's, and the burger diner is called Dairy Burger.
Yeah.
Right?
That's very strange.
Anyway, though, let's talk about the pool party that starts this book.
Let's talk about it.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Book starts. Everybody's psyched because there's going to be this big pool party at Lila's house.
But why are they psyched?
Because Lila made up this whole pool party specifically to show off this new mystery boy named Jack. Jack what? Nobody knows Jack's last name.
Yeah, they use pre-Google. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lila is really into this boy. Yeah. And he shows up eventually to this party.
Yeah, shows up late. Which
He's
is interesting.
Late. Yeah, it's a power move.
Yeah.
He strides in late, and everybody's really excited. He's very handsome.
Yeah. Suntanned.
Suntanned, yeah.
That's generally the euphemism for white and handsome in Sweet Valley.
Did he have sandy blonde hair?
I don't know. Hold on. But, it's one of those details that kind of falls by the wayside when all of the boys and men are described as handsome and suntanned. The only distinguishing characteristic is their hair, so I should have paid more attention to it.
I just did a search on my Kindle copy, and no results for sandy blonde were found.
All right, hold on. So we've got Jack walking in. Powerful-looking arms, handsome face, deeply tanned. Oh, here it is. Honey brown hair. Was shot with sun-lightened streaks.
Honey brown and sandy blonde with sunlightened streaks are kind of the same color.
It's kind of the same thing, man. It's like light brown, but he's kind of like gotten it highlighted.
That's what it sounds like. He's just been spending a lot of time in the sun working construction.
That's right.
He should be wearing a helmet, but apparently not.
But he's too handsome for a helmet.
So he's this construction worker that Lila is convinced that there's more to it than that. And Lila finds out that, yes, there is more to it than that. He has a really successful father. He's from the East Coast. He doesn't like talking about it.
No.
But he doesn't want his father to find out where he is.
Do not bring up the East Coast or the West Coast with Jack. He will shut down emotionally. He's, catnip to emotionally insecure potential romantic partners by being so emotionally unavailable.
And his line of reasoning, or his story that he keeps up, is that it's because he's really trying to break away from that life, and he doesn't want to be just living to do his father's bidding. He doesn't want to just have the silver spoon in his mouth. He wants to make his own way. And he knows that if his family found out where he was, that they would kind of force him to come back and follow the path that he's trying to break away from. And he'll return
like the Buddha
home.
In that sense.
Yes,
rejecting.
Siddhartha, He will find his way back home once he has obtained enlightenment.
Yes. Jack is like the white Southern California Buddha of the 1980s.
Or so it would seem. But listeners, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Twist.
So
if you think you know where this story's going 5 pages in, you're wrong.
So, everybody's pretty impressed with Jack.
Yeah, who wouldn't be?
But there is one little kerfuffle at the pool party when Nicholas Morrow says that, hey, don't I know you. You look familiar. And that's when he's like,
oh, yeah.
I don't think so, buddy.
I don't think so, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets really defensive.
And what's interesting, Nicholas, is that the kid's name?
Yeah.
Yeah. He really persists, which is odd.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, sorry, I thought you looked familiar. No, he's like, were you on Martha's Vineyard? And he's like, no. He's like, are you buddies with my cousin? No. He asks him maybe 12 questions. Which, in Jack's defense, that would be a little irritating.
Yeah.
I told you no, bro. Back off.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hang out with these 2 scantily bikini-clad babes, and you're, up in my grill.
Yeah, the 2 babes being Lila and Jessica, both looking hot in their swimsuits.
Yeah. Purposefully so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's another thing. This is what I think is really interesting. The only reason Jessica wants to go to this pool party isn't because it's a pool party. It's because she gets a rumor that there might be a hot guy that Lila is interested in. And she's already decided from page 2 that she's going to steal him. Mm-hmm. All right, it seems kind of like this manipulative thing that Lila is even having the pool party to introduce Jack as her potential romantic partner. It all is just, 2 enormous manipulations clashing.
Oh, yeah.
And, we're setting this up for trouble.
And if we assume that Jack is just a normal boy who is who he says he is, it's pretty weird that both of them are mostly obsessed with finding out who he really is.
Yeah.
It's like when you get some kind of a toy where you buy it for the mystery prize inside, and you're so sure that as soon as you get it home, you're going to rip it open and it's going to be something awesome. That's all they're after. They want to find out what's inside that box.
They're objectifying him, really.
Yeah. I mean, honestly. But speaking of objectification.
Yeah, please.
This is from early on in the book. As Jack walked off, Jessica eyed Lila carefully. Her light brown hair was swept up off her face in a becoming French braid. Her shiny black bikini was as skimpy as Jessica's, and Lila's trim figure was almost as good.
Almost, Jessica noted. Sorry.
Jessica shifted her focus as Jack emerged from the cabana in a navy blue racing suit. Oh my god, she thought. The less this guy wears, the better he looks. So, just objectification left, right, and center. Yeah. She looks almost as good as me in her bikini.
Jessica's got some body issues.
I mean, no, she thinks she looks better. I mean,
that's what I mean. Like, everything is about,
that bod.
Yeah, and compared to hers and, projecting outward. I'm curious, because that is from Jessica's point of view, like, who knows what the reality is?
Well, she has line...
What is the standard of beauty?
She has a line later in the book where she kind of repeats this line of thinking. She says, why would any guy spend time with Lila when they could be spending time with me?
Yeah.
And she
that
definitely...
thinking is gonna get you into trouble,
Yeah, and she definitely doesn't mean because of her sparkling personality. I think she's talking about, like, I'm hotter.
Well, she doesn't have much of a personality.
That's what she can't be. And then there's even a line where... Jessica thinks later on in the book, what did Lila have that she didn't? She made a mental list. 1, loads of money. 2, tons of money. 3, piles and piles of money. It doesn't sum it all up. Like, that's pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. It's how she views Lila, but it's interesting that that's also how she views Jack.
Right.
Which, like, okay, the only reason he would be interested in her is money. But even that's at a point in the book where she doesn't know Jack at all. So it's almost, again, it's that psychological projection of what she values.
Well, yeah, and in a weird way, that's also what she sees in Jack. Like, Jessica and Lila both have this weird game that they're playing mentally, like with themselves. They have this inner struggle between... Well, I love the mystery of Jack and that he's this rugged construction worker.
But not initially. They resent it.
That's true.
And the only reason that I wanted to talk about this, I found, like, there's this really odd, like, classist, like, issue where the second they find out that Jack is working construction, like, they both almost reject him.
Well, let's talk about that scene, and then so that we can get to that. This actually happens in the party, this super weird scene where Lila offers to give Jack a tour of the house so that they can be alone together. Jessica sees that that's what's happening and volunteers to also go on the tour of the house. Like, I want to see it too.
Right.
And so Lila can't say anything because she doesn't, I don't know why, but I guess she feels like she doesn't want to be rude or something. Like, she doesn't want to show
that's interesting,
her card.
Right?
I think it's kind of like a teen girl crush thing. Like, well, I don't know yet if Jack is really interested in me, so I can't make my feelings too obvious, that kind of thing. So they go into the house, and then the phone rings, and it's conveniently the day the servants are away. Yeah. So Lila's her father is away too, or this party would not be happening. Right. Because Mr. Fowler...
As most teen parties are.
That's true. But Mr. Fowler, do you remember Lila's father?
Yeah, he's a crusher out there. He's a real bruiser out in the world. He's got some anger issues, it sounds like.
Yeah, Lila is, like, really afraid of disappointing him in this book. Like, really afraid. Yeah. Which is an interesting part of Lila's
I'd like to explore
psyche.
That.
Yeah.
Terror of the father. Like, a lot of them have that in this book.
Jack has it, in a way. But or at least he says he does.
He says he does.
Yeah, he doesn't really.
Let's get to that.
Okay. The reason that Lila is so afraid of her father is not just that she'll be in trouble because she wasn't supposed to have the party. It's because she knows that her dad can't find out about Jack because he won't approve.
Yeah. Because he's a construction worker.
Yep.
At 19. Or 18. Maybe he's 18.
Yeah, God forbid.
Yeah. He's taking a year off between high school and college and working construction. And the second he says that, both of the women are, like, less interested. And the only reason they come back is because the other one, they want to win over the other one.
Right.
Right?
And he reveals, I guess, a little bit of his, to each of them. That's why they come back, and then over time he reveals a little bit more of his story of what supposedly he has this family back home that he's trying to impress.
He's not just a worthless blue-collar day laborer.
Right, he's more than that. I know, it's It's really upsetting, honestly.
Yeah. And the only, it's kind of infuriating. Like, can we talk about the date? The Wednesday date? Are we there yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing we'll say about that is that Lila goes to answer the phone and Jessica goes in for the kill.
Yeah.
She gives him her phone number. She, like, finds a pencil and, like, a matchbook or something. No. Oh my god, yes. Okay.
It's better. So much more romantic. Like all brief love affairs, she lights a match and lets it burn out. And then with the charred matchstick writes her phone number on a matchbook so that he'll call her.
So good.
Good.
And he does call her.
And he does. It doesn't get smudged, which I thought was the obvious plot twist coming, that he, soot smudges. But it doesn't.
You know what, though? This is the 1980s, and there were phone books.
There were phone books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Wakefields are listed. So he makes a date with Jessica.
Yeah, this player.
He tells Lila that he can only go out on weekends because he has to have an early night.
Because he's working construction.
Yeah.
He's working those powerful arms.
Yeah. But then, so he can't go with Lila until Saturday or whatever.
Right.
But then...
Yeah, he calls her up on Monday, I think. Makes a date for Wednesday. Jessica immediately thinks that'll give me a 2-day head start.
Yes.
Like,
over
damn,
Lila.
girl.
Yeah.
So she gets in there. And they go out on a very romantic date.
Oh my god. What does he say on this date? Is this the star thing?
Yeah, this is the star thing. But what I wanted to bring up, going back to the classism issue, is that we start to see Jessica kind of reevaluating her materialist views. When he rolls up in a Jeep, he apologizes for it. She's starting to learn that he's only earning his way because he's rejecting his father and the vast amounts of money his father has, and he's trying to make his way in the world, and he's got this dirty car, and it says that she steps into it as if it were a Rolls Royce. So, like, when she thought that there was no financial future in Jack, she was kind of turned off. But the second we find out that he comes from money and is trying to earn a lot of money, that excuses, the rougher elements of him, like having a dirty car. And it's just like, come on, lady.
Well, also, she does undergo this weird, like, slight change in thinking.
Yes.
Where she starts to value hard work.
Mm-hmm. But it's all a ruse. She's only trying to use it to get closer to him. She's trying to show people that she's working hard.
Yeah,
because
she does it even when he's not around a couple of times. She makes some observations.
Yeah.
But, with the cheerleading, like, yeah.
I'm captaining, I gotta work hard.
Yeah.
Like, who are you?
She's so obnoxious.
But yes, the date.
On this date, they go for a walk along the beach. So we should...
They've chuckled a few times.
Yeah, and Jack is so charming. Like...
we're told...
That's what I mean. We're told, we don't get to see his charm.
Yeah, we don't get... Nothing he says is charming, but he chuckles and people are charmed.
Yeah, he has a winning smile.
Yeah,
he has a very winning smile.
Yeah. And topsiders. Apparently topsiders are very charming on 18-year-old boys.
He has some real preppy clothes, I will say that.
Yeah, for a construction worker who's trying to run away from his enormously wealthy past...
Oh, in fact, speaking of the preppy clothes, I wanted to point out, just because this exact outfit came up in a previous episode anecdote, the Mike Yarsky episode. Mike, I hope you're listening. But listeners, hopefully you remember this too. When Jack shows up at the party, he was dressed conservatively in a pair of khaki walking shorts, a green Lacoste shirt, and topsiders.
Topsiders, those damn topsiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, topsiders. Always topsiders. But... he has this moment that's just amazing with Jessica on the beach. Do you remember what he does with the stars?
I sure do.
Do you have, by any chance, have that part marked?
Do I? It's
at
pretty
the end
easy
of
to
chapter
find.
4. It's at the end of chapter 4.
Oh, that's right. The date.
Before I gave this book to you, I opened it up and took a picture, and like the page that I opened to was this scene. So you might just let the book fall open and see if this is the one it falls to.
Oh yeah.
You should read it because you've got the beautiful charming man voice.
Well, thank you. Here we go. So she can feel his muscles rippling under the thin cotton of his shirt as he embraces her on the beach, looking out at the stars. You're a great storyteller, Jess, Jack said huskily. That was me being husky, I hope that.
Oh, yeah. You're naturally husky, Mark.
You're a great storyteller, Jess.
Your voice.
Wait a minute. Is that just how you call little boys fat? They got the husky section. All right.
Sorry, I'm interrupting, but
Okay,
I wanted to
is.
clarify that I don't.
Yeah.
You are not husky,
I'm not
but you
like
have a naturally
chubby
husky
12-year-old.
voice.
Okay, here we go. You're a great storyteller, Jess. This is Alec Baldwin, actually. Jack is Alec Baldwin. Jack! It's Jack Donaghy!
Young Jack Donaghy.
Young Jack Donaghy. Okay, this makes a lot more sense. The charm, the conservative dress. All right. You're a great storyteller, Jess. Jack said huskily. I think I'll name a star after you. He and Jessica looked upward. Every star in the sky sparkled like a cut diamond. Again, with the materialism. That one, Jack proclaimed, reaching his finger out to point toward the star, because it shines more brightly than all the rest. Jessica followed his outstretched arm with her eyes.
But, Jack, that's the North Star.
Not to me, it's not. Not any longer. Jack caressed Jessica's cheek with his fingertip. From now on, that star is called Jessica, and every time I look at it, I'll think about you in this wonderful evening. Blah, 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 chiseled cheekbones, strong jaw, full mouth. Slowly, gently, he lowered his lips onto hers and took her into a long, lingering embrace.
Yay!
And you're supposed to imagine the waves crashing and the seagulls. Like,
yeah.
maybe a foghorn. Is this helpful? Setting the scene. Maybe some seals.
Yeah, it was not very romantic before, but now that we've got this soundscape, I'm really feeling it.
And maybe in the edit we can combine all those together underneath, just softly in the background.
Oh, yeah. You know, I have a whole, library of sound effects that I can utilize.
Maybe we could hear a grunion run, all the little minnows,
Yeah.
Yeah, grunion run.
So the Jack's Got Game, it's a weird game,
But apparently it works on 16-year-old girls. So
the big conflict here that the listeners are kind of taking along for this ride, but we get to see both sides of the game Jack is playing. Jessica is falling for Jack. Yeah. But meanwhile, Lila is falling for Jack.
Yeah, poor Lila.
And on the weekend, so she goes on a date. Jessica is sure, let's just say, after this date, Jessica is sure that Jack will either cancel his date with Lila or just do it to be nice.
Yeah, like Elizabeth did in a previous book, I'm told.
Yeah. And then on Monday, she finds out that Jack spent the whole weekend with Lila, essentially. That's what Lila is saying.
Yeah.
Which sounds very romantic.
Yeah.
Or something.
Something
and
happened.
Jessica's really angry. Elizabeth has been warning Jessica that Jack feels like he's bad
Something's
news.
off.
Jessica's like, Elizabeth, you're just being a hater.
Yeah, she's an investigative cub reporter. She's got some intuition. She can sniff out a story. She knows something's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like Elizabeth.
Speaking of what's going on with Elizabeth, we can take a slight detour into Elizabeth.
Yeah, some mystery there,
Penny,
right?
The editor of the Oracle, Penny Ayala, has mononucleosis.
And can't stay awake longer than a half an hour. So she's home, getting much needed rest.
Yeah, and Elizabeth has taken over the job of editing the Oracle.
Yeah.
Really the role she was born for, but it's stressing her out. And add into all of this the mystery of where the cutest ever photos are coming from.
Can I just say one quick detail that just charmed me is, I remember high school yearbook. I remember the high school paper. But in 1985, Sweet Valley High, the paper is, something out of, she's basically Katharine Graham at the Washington Post in the 70s. It's described as, in the room, reporters are, clacking away at news, at typewriters, and, you're hearing the zip and the bell of the typewriters, and it's people have got to file these stories.
It's literally an extracurricular, but as long as they're there in the after school, their hour after school, it's hot off the presses.
They're breaking,
we gotta get to the bottom of this. Yeah.
They're publishing the Pentagon Papers at Sweet Valley High.
And that level of importance is actually critical to this little B-story thing working.
Yeah.
Because they get this anonymous photos that they really want to print, but they don't want to print them without Penny's permission.
Without attribution.
And they have this, they don't want to print them without attribution, but they don't know whose photos they are, so they can't credit the person, and it's a big deal.
But that somebody is apparently an incredible photojournalist.
Yes, who captures all these weird, private, personal moments.
Like the linebacker kissing his stuffed animal. And it's hilarious and insightful, and we finally sympathize with the linebacker, who is a character elsewhere in the series. Does he ever come back up again? But he's 230 pounds. So,
I don't even remember his name.
I don't know.
It's like Buzz something.
But yeah, something
Buzz
thuggy.
Moose Man.
Moose. Yeah. Thick. He's a thick fella. It's ironic that he would be kissing a teddy bear.
His name is Tad Johnson.
Tad Johnson, yeah.
It was a picture of Tad Johnson, a 240-pound linebacker for the Sweet Valley High football team.
I was off by 10 pounds.
Kissing a tiny teddy bear. In the background, Elizabeth could just make out Jessica and the other cheerleaders warming up before a game. Mm-hmm. And then they get one of, the
Tad
principal.
Tad
was husky. But he was probably really strong, too.
Yeah.
So some of that was muscle weight.
Oh, yeah. Which weighs twice as much as fat.
And there's something about the principal who is looking for something under his desk. That was kind of a lame one. But
I don't remember
they find these great pictures. Turns out that Penny's little sister is the one who's been taking the pictures.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
shock. She's in ninth grade.
Yeah.
And she's got an eye.
And she, it's weird because she wants the pictures in the paper, but, she doesn't think that Penny would ever accept her because she doesn't see her as anything more than her dumb kid sister.
But see, okay, so this is actually a really interesting corollary to the Jack storyline, the supposed Jack storyline, where Jack rejects his, supposedly he rejects his privilege to make his way in the world. And yet, what's her name? Not Penny. The sister. The little one.
Olivia? Is that right?
That's kind of actually what she's doing. She's like, nobody's going to take me seriously because I don't want this to be like a nepotism thing where the publisher of the school paper is publishing her little sister's photos. So I'm going to establish myself on my merit. I'm just going to submit things anonymously. And if people see that I have an eye, then so be it. And if not, I'll work harder. And I'm like, oh, that's a legitimate, awesome thing, kid.
Well, it turns out I didn't know her name either. It was Tina Ayala.
Tina!
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's never appeared before in this series.
And never appears again? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't remember. We don't care about
She gets picked up by, National Geographic. And
juniors, seniors, or they're dead to us here on Sweet Valley.
Or people on gap years.
If they're out of high school, they might as well be gods.
Yeah.
Getting back to Jack.
Yeah, Jack.
We have
this fucking guy.
Yeah, so when Jessica kind of angrily confronts Jack, what's the deal? I thought after what happened with us that you maybe were gonna break up with Ella, and he's just like, oh, we saw each other.
It's nothing.
What does he say? On Saturday we hung out just as friends, and on Sunday we ran into each other at the mall. Lila might see more into it, but I'll set her straight at some point. And I love you, Jessica. She's amazing.
Crazy. She's crazy, babe.
Yeah, exactly. And Jessica falls for that. Lila is kind of crazy, as is Jessica.
Yeah,
so
everybody's a little nuts in Sweet Valley.
Yeah.
It's in the water.
And so things just kind of continue in this manner. But then we get this moment as the reader of finding out that when Jack and Lila are together, Jack is actually professing his love for Lila. And he does the same North Star bullshit with Lila.
Oh, it's just, it's heartbreaking.
He does the same thing, but he takes it even further.
Yeah.
He says that they should get married.
Yeah.
And they love you. He loves her so much they should spend the rest of their lives together.
Quick question. How old do you have to be to get married in the state of California in 1983?
Let's ask Siri.
Okay.
Hey Siri, how old do you have to be to get married in the state of California in 1985?
My web search turned something up for how old you have to be to get married in
Okay, that's what she does. So, age of consent. Mm-hmm. This probably isn't for 1985.
Well, we can, things were weirder back then.
Family.findlaw.com.
Well, so I'm just curious, because this is never really acknowledged, but I think if we're supposed to assume that they're all juniors, that Lila is probably 16, and Jack is therefore, because he's in his gap year, 18 or 19?
The age of consent is 18 in California.
Oh, so see, there's already a structural flaw in what Jack is proposing, unless...
And with parental consent, there are no age limits regarding the minimum age, but she's not going to get parental consent.
No, because Dad, Papa Lila, whatever her last name is.
Fowler
George Estates.
Fowler.
George Fowler Cliff. So anyway, this isn't going to work, but we don't know that just because we're in the world and everything's fictional.
Yeah.
So,
and Jack is like,
matters.
we can't tell anybody yet, which
is
a big red flag. Now Lila knows.
Big red flag.
But it's like everything, he kind of justifies it.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's pretty much all just like a slide downhill.
Yeah, what are you doing, Jack?
Yeah, because Lila is really excited about her fiance. She wakes up, and the day that she's supposed to hang out with him, I guess, it's a Saturday.
Yeah.
So she's on the weekends are Lila time. That's how Jack divides his time. Weekends for Lila, weeknights for Jessica. Mm-hmm. And
what game are you playing, Jack?
Yeah, and doesn't he actually need to go to sleep to get up to go on? I mean, that's the thing that was confusing
weird.
to me.
Yeah.
When he tells Lila this thing about having to get up early to work, that's true.
So what are you doing, man? But I guess the date is only literally, like, if you could break it down, the date that he went on Wednesday with Jessica is literally picking her up, talking to her parents for 10 minutes, driving 10 minutes to the beach, within a page and a half, naming a star after her, and then driving her home. These dates could be going on for, like, 32 minutes.
Well, also, I'm told that cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Cocaine is a hell, yeah. Well, that brings us to the twist.
Or speed, maybe.
Mixed drugs.
Mixed cocaine and speed mixed together with, like, a heroin chaser or...
And Adderall.
Just some pills,
Just snorting Adderall, doing some heroin.
Yeah.
That's
he's got
Jack.
some sort of... I don't know where... He's keeping it in some secret jacket pocket. I don't know. But we'll get to there very soon. Lila wakes up. She's really sick.
Yeah.
She's got the 24-hour flu, she says at one point, which I thought was like plot device.
Twist.
Yeah. Although it doesn't matter because Lila's out of commission now once she gets the flu. She has to cancel her day with Jack.
Yeah. She's shunned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And...
She tries to get out of bed. Nothing's going to stop her from this night. And then doesn't she, like, immediately pass out or something else happens?
Her maid comes in and the housekeeper comes in and is like, bitch, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
She doesn't literally say that. She's like a very proper woman. I wish she had. Yeah. She's a very proper woman who has like the fire of a Roman emperor or something. And she has to cancel her date.
Yeah.
So Jessica gets a phone call. Yeah. Jessica doesn't know. Jessica thinks at this point Jack has called things off.
Broken things off, yeah.
Because he
not
told her
gotten engaged.
Yeah. And Lila hasn't had a chance to tell anybody because, it's a secret anyway.
No, it's a secret. It's Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. Jessica and Jack go out to a romantic dinner at Guido's.
Is it Guido's?
It is Guido's.
Do they say Guido's 12 times like they do Dairy Burger?
They sure do.
Yeah. They don't want you to forget where they are, and yet I forgot.
And damn, this pizza that they eat sounds very indulgent. It's got like...
Shall I find it?
5 kinds of cheese. Yeah, find it.
Sticky cinema floor.
What was the sticky cinema floor?
Yeah. Jessica was on her hands and knees on a sticky cinema floor. Where's that going?
Oh, we didn't even say that earlier on in this book, Jessica's wallet gets stolen.
Oh, yeah, that's critical.
That's what happens in that beach date.
Yeah.
Jessica, when she's out with him, her wallet gets stolen. And also, one of the things that got Lila in trouble with her father after the party was that his cufflinks were missing. So there's just some weird little color. It probably doesn't have anything to do with anything, but I just want you to know that, listeners. So at the very beginning of chapter 11, Jessica helped herself to the last piece of the Guido's deluxe pie, smothered in tomato sauce and mozzarella cheese, and heaped with 6 different toppings.
Oh my goodness.
And she gives it a 9.9 rating, and he's like, what happened to the other 10th of a point? Jessica daintily licked the sauce from her fingers.
Ooh.
Well, nothing's perfect, she joked. Except maybe you, she added silently. Jack looked especially handsome that afternoon, wearing a dark brown crewneck sweater over a wheat-tone button-down shirt that complemented the color of his tiny... That complemented the color... I skipped a line. That complemented the color of his hair. Every time Jessica looked at him, tiny ripples of ecstasy washed up and down her spine.
Jesus.
That's the reason that I highlighted this passage.
Yeah.
Because tiny ripples of ecstasy running up and down your spine is something that does not happen when you look at a boy wearing a wheat tone button down.
Over a
no matter
cheese
how
pizza.
much you love him. And I'm a little bit concerned about Jessica at this
Medically?
point.
At this point?
Medically. I mean, I guess
Hormones.
I guess so.
Also a hell of a drug.
So while they're at Guido's is when things start to turn a little funky.
Yeah, things get a little weird, right?
Yeah. Because Nicholas Morrow walks in. They're enjoying a great time. Every time he smiles, Jessica falls in love with him all over again.
Yeah, tiny
ripples.
Spine ripples.
Yeah. And Nicholas walks in with some boy that we've never heard of before who has red hair.
Yeah.
And Jack immediately tenses up and has it's described as a twisted grimace on his face and starts acting weird, and Jessica's trying to figure out what, but he's just brushing it off.
Yeah.
She waves the guys over.
Oh no.
Yeah, and Jack is like, I gotta go pay the bill, I'll meet you outside in the car.
Yeah.
And she's
weirdo.
like, this is fucking weird, okay. But
right.
she's like, sorry, some people are I got somebody waiting for me, and goes outside, and Jack explains it away. I think that guy that was with Nicholas was someone who knows me, and he'll tell my father. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
He regains his composure.
Right.
Then he tells a romantic story about scuba diving.
Is that where that happened? Whatever it is, it's a great job at deflecting.
Yeah, and he comes up with this really good way to get Jessica back to his place. Mm-hmm. Which is I really want to show you these pictures from a scuba diving trip I took.
Yeah.
He's like, come see my etchings. And she's she has this funny moment where she thinks to herself, it would be weird to go home with a boy you've only known for a couple of weeks.
But Nicholas has started talking about what is going on with Jack, right?
Yeah, well, right after...
Oh, right after.
Right after Jessica agrees to leave with Jack and go to his house, is when Nicholas starts talking to his buddy.
Yep, that's it. Nicholas is about to drop some news.
Nicholas starts asking questions to his friend, whose name is Dave Matson. Mm-hmm. Dave and Nicholas went to boarding school together on the East Coast to prep school. And Nicholas tells Dave, I think that this guy that Jessica was with looked familiar, but I can't place him. Did you recognize him? And then Dave Matson can't quite place him until Nicholas says that his name was Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Nicholas, he croaked. After his freckled face went as white as a nurse's uniform, Nicholas...
Oh my gosh, you just found it. That's the forced metaphor of the week.
Ding, 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 ding.
Dave's face went as white as a nurse's uniform.
Nicholas, he croaked. Is that a croak? Mm-hmm. Croak, Nicholas. What did you say his name was? Nicholas noted the look of alarm in his friend's eyes. It's Jack. I don't know his last name. You were right, David said, his voice in a frightened whisper. He did go to school with us, but he got kicked out. And your friend, Jessica, may be in big trouble.
Basically, there was this event that happened right after Nicholas started school.
An event? Yeah.
Well, Jack robbed a girl at knife point, a girl he'd been dating.
In fact.
And then he gets kicked out of school, and
the girl never filed charges for some reason.
Yeah, and it says a lot of strange stories started going around about him after that incident at school. Yeah. And that's the part that I want to read about the backstory for Jack.
Yeah, let's do that. Look, from what I can piece together, he was something of a modern-day Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Most of the time, he was a great guy, nice, polite, the kind of person everybody gets along with. But every so often, he'd just go wild and lose control of himself.
Why? Nicholas wanted to know.
Yeah, it's a sad story, David began. It seems Jack's entire family was killed in a boating accident a few years before he came to school. Sorry, I should have given a trigger alert. I wanted the audience to be triggered. We will be discussing ridiculous tragedies.
Yes.
So there was a younger sister, I think, whom he... Oh, well done, David. Whom he was
but why doesn't he say to whom he was particularly close?
Yeah, Dave, because they're kids. He's learning.
It says whom he was particularly close to.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Anyway, rumor has it that from the day they died, Jack started escaping into his own little fantasy world where his sister was still alive and where Jack could be anything he wanted to be.
Which brings us back to previous conversations in which the only time Jack was revealing about himself and not, like, avoiding questions was when he talked lovingly about his little sister,
His sister
like Veronica Valerie. Yeah.
He talks about Valerie a lot.
The whole situation got worse when his uncle, whom he'd been living with, since the accident, scraped up enough money to send him away to school. That was about a year and a half before you arrived, David explained. Anyway, you know how many wealthy kids there were up at school. It was more of a statement than a question, Nicholas himself coming from a well-to-do family. Well, it seems that in Jack's fantasy world, he saw himself as even richer and more important than they were. He started telling people stories about himself. Pretty soon, I'm not sure even he knew what was real and what wasn't.
Wow, that's pretty heavy stuff. So, honestly, we could go on and on and on.
I'm sorry, I get carried away.
No, I had all that highlighted. I wanted to get it out
prose,
there.
I love it.
It's amazing. Yeah. So, Jack is a madman, and Jessica is on her way to his house, but nobody knows where Jessica's going.
Right.
So now there's this big mad hunt to find her, and they try to find Elizabeth, and they eventually track down Elizabeth. Elizabeth calls Lila, and Lila's like, Jack's with who now?
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? But Elizabeth's like, you know what? He's not who you think he is. He's actually
a murderer.
Just a crook. She says he's like a lying crook.
Yeah.
And Lila turns very cold and is like, he lives at 334 Elm Street or whatever. Like and she's like, tell Jessica I said she did me a favor. You know, it's like, it's like a really good, and that's the end of Lila's story. Dun. And so then, everybody races to the house
on Elm Street.
Yeah, and there's this hilarious interchange with this guy who lives. Maybe it is Elm Street actually that he lives on. That's appropriate. Would be appropriate.
Yeah,
because a nightmare is happening there inside Jack's house, where Jessica makes the mistake of bringing up his past, and he gets a little funky. She excuses herself to go to the bathroom, and when she comes out, he's going through her purse. And he's like, no, I can explain. I needed a match to light the stove because I was going to make us tea. And she's holding this box in her hand. She's like, why didn't you tell me about this? And it's a box of drugs.
But mixed drugs.
Yes. She opens this box and it's like every kind of drug is in the box.
Yeah.
And that was also part of Jack's story is that like he supposedly had just been swimming in a chlorine pool and that's why his eyes were bloodshot at one point in the story.
An unmarked rectangular box. Drugs. All kinds of drugs. And not the prescription kind she was hoping to find. There were pills of all different colors and sizes, a jar of whitish powder, a plastic bag full of marijuana, pipes, rolling papers, and various other accessories that Jessica couldn't even begin to identify. But she knew trouble when she saw it.
Yeah. Well, she knows it now. I mean, she didn't know it before. I think it's not true that Jessica knows trouble when she sees it. Yeah. But, so Jack's just on every drug. Mm-hmm. It should be noted that the reason Jessica was rooting around in the bathroom was because she was hoping that she would find a prescription pill bottle that had his last name on it.
Yeah. Because she still doesn't know his last name.
Yeah, she wants to know who he is.
Right.
You know, she wants to know which rich family he comes from. Mm-hmm. But now things go really, really dark really fast.
Jeez.
And basically, I mean, to make a long story short, Jack is essentially going to kill her.
Yeah.
Because she knows too much.
Yeah,
and
with a knife, right?
Yeah, he's got this knife. He can't keep on going from place to place. He's sick of this
live a lie.
Yeah. He's got a good thing going here in Sweet Valley. So, he is going to, slice her up, I guess.
Yeah, slice her up and move on.
And
move on to Lila, get married.
I guess so. After Elizabeth, I mean, but he's going to have to wait 2 years, but whatever. Maybe he'll hold George Fowler at knife point. I don't know.
Yeah.
So after Elizabeth and her friends, break through, this guy that she yells at...
Again, one of the benefits of having, a crack journalist in the family, an investigative reporter, as your twin sister... When there's mystery around, that's a good thing to have.
Yeah, but Elizabeth pulls the funniest card because when this guy won't tell her if somebody who it looks like the man she's describing lives there, she's like, what do I look like? And she's like, you look like the meanest, rudest man that ever lived. And then she, like, pushes her way inside. It's like, and she throws a fit, which I feel like would probably be effective if you're a 16-year-old girl. I
suppose, yeah.
But she's not worried about being effective. She's just overcome with emotion.
Okay. You don't think it's a tactic. You think it's...
I don't really,
Yeah,
no.
you think it's a genuine thing.
Afraid for Jessica's life.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they jumped to that conclusion, but...
but it was the right one.
It was the right one. And then the book is basically over. Like, they arrest Jack.
Right.
And what does Jessica learn?
Jack nothing.
Yeah, appropriate.
Yeah. She learns Jack. And she goes back to being a horrible, snotty, privileged girl.
Yeah, they even tell her that she was the heroine of the day.
What?
I don't remember why. But, also Nicholas Marlowe gets a knife to the shoulder.
So
yeah, he's the hero,
Nicholas.
Seems to me.
Yeah, we're a victim. Does victimhood make you a hero?
No.
I mean, he's kind of a... All right. But they were able to... I think David is the hero.
Yeah.
Well, but not really. He doesn't do anything. He just...
He provides
has information.
Yeah.
He's just an expository, like, messenger character.
Yeah.
I think Elizabeth is the hero. I think she deserves a Medal of Honor. I think, she's the only likable, relatable character. She's faced with moral conundrums right and left. We didn't even talk about the whole potential, plane thing.
Let's maybe go in now to the section of the podcast where we talk about boys.
Oh, right, boys.
Who's a beautiful boys, a beautiful boys. I'm in danger of losing.
I think we should use the section of the podcast where we talk about boys today to focus on one boy in particular whose name is George Warren.
George Warren. George, he's a bad actor.
He wasn't before, but now he is.
Yeah, what happened to George?
What do you remember about George?
George is in flight school because apparently in Sweet Valley High, 18-year-olds can fly planes. I guess that's what happens when you're very wealthy. And who is he? He's dating Enid.
Enid, who is Elizabeth's best friend.
Yeah, so he's in.
They get together in like the second book of the series. Like
it's a long-term, 17 books worth relationship. Like, kind of bland. They're at the pool party, and he's like, I love the pool.
Yeah.
And I guess we're supposed to, like, already like him for some reason,
so.
but I just thought he was, like, a total chode.
Yeah, we don't know too much about him.
We don't know. He's just kind of awful. And Enid's, like, nuts about him.
Yeah.
And
Elizabeth gets one of the pictures from Tina Ayala.
Yeah.
And it's of a romantic embrace. But what Tina doesn't realize is that the romantic embrace is between two people that are cheaters. Two cheaters.
Two cheaters.
It's George Warren and Robin Wilson.
Robin. Interesting side note about Robin, there's like some weird dig about her, like...
Used to be fat,
and that's, like, she was a good writer before she lost all that weight.
Yeah, once she lost the weight, she got caught up in cheerleading.
Boys. Yeah, and you're like, what?
You just can't win. Poor Robin Wilson cannot win.
Yeah.
But then also now she's a cheating bitch.
She's a cheating bitch, but, like, okay, I'm not going to go too far in defending them, but I do want to offer an alternate perspective, like... Are they in love?
Yeah. No, I know. It's just more fun if we say that she's a cheating bitch.
Yeah.
But what they should have done, the dumb thing that
Couldn't
they
have just communicated?
Yeah. So
just be like, hey,
George
Enid.
and Robin are in love, but the problem is that they seem to be acting on their love in a physical way before ending things with their respective partners.
Which is a little shitty.
Yeah.
A little?
I mean, I don't know to what extent, because the picture is just of hugging.
Oh,
and,
right.
Isn't it just a hugging
picture?
Yeah,
it's not like
and Elizabeth
Gary
sneaks,
Hart on the Monkey Business.
Right, so Elizabeth sneaks to the pilot school graduation.
Which apparently all these kids are in pilot school, which is awesome.
She's hoping that she's just reading too much into this photo.
Yeah.
But then she sees Robin and
there's
George.
Chemistry.
They're even like they're next to each other in line, and she's just like, oh, but their last names both start with W, so it makes sense that they're next to each other.
Yeah, she's looking for any excuse.
Yeah.
But you know when people have slept together. Like when you see them together and you're like, did they? Oh, no, they did. They're just like the way they position their bodies, the fact that she's like touching his upper arm. It's like, oh, I can put the pieces together. I know there's history there. Like that's... Elizabeth isn't an idiot, and she knows.
Well, she does know, and she's right. because she confronts them, much to her credit. She doesn't want to, but she does anyway. Mm-hmm. And they tell her, like, oh, Liz, I know this sucks, but we have fallen for each other. Like, we've fallen in love. And Robin does say that morning she woke up with Alan, or told the news to Alan, and George says that he really wanted to take Enid on his first flight.
Because he made a promise.
Yeah, which is nice.
Well,
and he's going to break it to her.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of an excuse, right? Like...
Well, it turns in... I mean, you're kind of presaging book 20 here, but it does turn into a big excuse where George is so concerned with hurting Enid's feelings that he doesn't... It's like he really wants to avoid it, which is understandable.
Understandable. Who wants to be the bad guy?
Yeah.
In Sweet Valley High, besides Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack loves to be the bad guy, but he just doesn't want you to know that he's the bad guy.
There's a lot of weird shame in this. The characters have so much shame.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
I mean, yeah.
I wish they could just communicate openly with each other. You know?
That would be nice. That would be really nice.
Hey, it kind of hurts my feelings, Jessica, that you're pursuing the same boy as me. I was really into him. But you know what? Let's both be mature about this. Let's communicate with Jack. See what he wants.
Well, communication would solve most problems in Sweet Valley, as I have often said on this podcast, and have started saying in my real life more and more often. When I am spotting a problem in like a friend or loved one's life that's based on...
you guys talked about it?
Yeah, it's based on them having a feeling that they're not expressing to another person, and it's like, you know what? Probably telling them that this is how you feel would help at least keep from this constant cycle of acting out of your suspicions rather than real facts.
As Richard Schiff once told me, the truth is always good news.
That's beautiful.
I don't know if that's actually true, but...
Probably not. I mean, not when the truth is, Enid, I've fallen in love with Robin Wilson.
But ultimately, like a year later, like, looking back, yeah, it's gonna sting. But also, like, Robin, move on.
That's very
wise. You're a good writer. You're a pilot. You know? All the guys are interested in you. Like, move on. George is a dope.
Yeah. Are you saying Robin should move on or Enid should move on?
Both.
All the boys are not interested in Enid, I'm afraid. But
right.
She can find a good guy.
She can find a good guy.
Jessica is really a bitch to Enid in this book.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't this
Learn
the
a
one
skill.
where... Yeah.
You know?
But Jessica's always a bitch to Enid. Before we finish the boys section, I just want to do a quick update on Neil Fremount. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about this Neil Fremount guy for the past few books. Who is he? What's he all about?
Yeah.
Here's a little bit of a glimpse when Jessica is thinking about hitting on Jack at the pool party, before the pool party happens.
I don't remember.
Elizabeth says, "And what about Neil Fremount?"
Oh, yeah.
"Neil? He and I are just good friends," Jessica replied. "I mean, sure, he's taking me to this party, but he doesn't mind if I spend time with other guys.
Oh, I bet he does.
Just like I don't mind if he hangs around with other girls." "He never does," Elizabeth said sternly. So that's what's happening. Neil Fremount thinks that he and Jessica are dating. Jessica doesn't think that she and Neil Fremount are dating.
Communication, guys.
Communication.
Can we talk about this? So we know, just from statistics, that, like, what is it? 10 to 20% of the population is gay? Like, just biologically?
Oh.
Right?
Sorry, that wasn't an O to that statistic.
Yeah, no.
That's
but
can we talk about it?
How do we apply it to Sweet Valley High? Like, if this is a real world, how many of these characters are closeted? How many of the issues that they're facing comes from a lack of communication and a lack of identity and a lack of acceptance?
Yeah.
You know? Like, I don't know if that's... I don't have enough information to talk about it, but I just want to put that out there into the Sweet Valley Diaries universe.
I think it's something that we have talked about on the podcast a little bit before. Okay. And I don't know how much to say. I mean, we could have a fun conversation about
but is it canon?
Is it canon?
Mm-hmm.
Is the people that end up being gay in Sweet Valley Confidential, is that canon? Because that's something that did happen. Mark and I talked about Sweet Valley Confidential earlier today, where to update it for modern readers, but some of her choices are a little bit suspect. Francine Pascal's choices, I think. They wouldn't be the people that I would choose. But let me just say that then we get into this weird place of, even though they're fictional characters, like, what is it about them that we're, like, trying to name them?
Why are we trying to identify exactly.
And so I know it's just fiction. It's just these silly books, and it would be fun to be like when my guest Mike was on a few weeks ago, and he was saying that he was reading. There's a line where George is looking at Bruce Patman's bathing suit, and he's like, "Look at that tiny thing," or something.
Right.
And Mike is like, "I read that as a very
salivating."
Yeah. And that's gonna be fun.
Not just male judgment.
Right.
Yeah.
And if George were gay, that would put a whole new spin on this whole thing. Like,
yeah, he's repressed, so he's doing this whole like,
like, oh, Robin and I get along better. Like, I'm stuck in this weird place with Enid where maybe she's going to pressure me to like, why aren't we moving faster or further after we've been together for most of a year? We're 16 now. Like, let's try some new stuff. And he's like, not into it. I need to switch over to the formerly fat girl. Like, maybe she will understand my pain. It actually kind of tracks.
It tracks. I buy that.
Yeah.
Also, if we're talking 10 to 20% of the population is gay, in Sweet Valley, it seems like 5 to 10% of the population is a werewolf later on. Just looking at like the titles that come later in the series.
Mark is alluding to a copy of the highest numbered Sweet Valley High novel that I have, which is 128. It's called Kiss of a Killer.
Yeah.
And
which
in the back,
I'm guessing he's a vampire.
The killer.
Yeah.
He looks
just
on the cover of the book.
He's kind of like leaning into her neck. And it's
like,
all sensual. And...
yeah, he's ogling on the cover of the book 128, Kiss of a Killer. The books change a lot as the series rolls out.
This late 90s slick.
Cool surfer dude who looks kind of like Ryder Strong with a cross necklace on is looking at this girl he's holding in her arms, and he's really staring hard at her neck, her like clavicle.
Into that neck. And I also want to throw in a detail, if anybody has that out there, to pay attention to the encroaching mob on the beach. There are 2 dudes in that mob who are wearing ski masks and have glowing eyes. And I don't know if that's just an accident from the artist or if that tells us something about the plot.
Listeners, I'll post a picture of this book on Instagram at Sweet Valley Diaries so that you can see what it looks like. But we were just looking at it earlier because I was talking about how this series goes on beyond 128, but that's the highest number in my possession right now. And there were some titles in there that just
let's talk about these.
Stood out.
Okay, so here we go. 105, A Date with a Werewolf. 106, Beware the Wolfman. Super thriller.
Super thriller, sure.
Yeah. A Deadly Christmas. This is great. They just get kind of, they get darker and darker.
Well, there's a whole evil twin Christmas thing that happens with
a
character named Margot.
Number 100, The Evil Twin. Magna. They saved that for like the centennial copy.
Listeners, I'm curious if anybody listening to this only read these later books, because these came out in the mid-90s, like the series was getting further along, and so they were more, I don't know, I guess they were trying to be edgy in a different way.
I mean, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was out. And how much teen romance can you regurgitate book after book after book? Like, it feels like once you get to 104, like, good lord.
A beautiful boys, a beautiful boys, a beautiful boys.
Mark.
Yes.
While I would love to talk book titles with you all day long, I think that what we need to do now, as an order of business, is to talk about whether you are a Jessica or an Elizabeth.
I'm an Elizabeth. 100%.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was easy.
Is there any question? Like, come on. She's awesome. I'm not saying I am, but these are just qualities to which
Elizabeth
I
would
want to
also
aspire.
not say that she was awesome.
Yeah, I think, aside from the time when she had a coma and out Jessica, like, I just kind of feel like...
Which you didn't know about before
I didn't
today.
know about until, like, 10 minutes
That's
into
your story.
The podcast. I feel like Jessica's got some... Well, all right, you know what? Jessica's insecure. She's trying to... overcompensate for that insecurity. She only thinks very highly of herself. Maybe there's something relatable to that, where you're like, oh, how do we manifest our insecurities out in the world? But I think Elizabeth she's got her head on her shoulders. She's, cracking away at the news. I see her like going to work for the New York Times, or maybe, like maybe the Atlantic. She's maybe she's a war correspondent 30 years from now. Like in 2018, I think she's, maybe she's the one breaking the news on Trump's finances. After an 18-month research project for the New York Times.
She's been like up to her eyeballs in it for like the past 2 years.
Yeah, she's breaking corruption in Washington. And I think Jessica has retreated to Orange County. She's gotten some work done. She's on her 4th husband. And she's, no matter how confidently she projects herself, she's deeply troubled underneath and is past the point where she can be fixed.
I think Jessica could be a good Real Housewife.
She could be a real good housewife.
I mean, adult Jessica.
A good real housewife. Yeah. Adult Jessica. And without, she's wearing a MAGA hat, like she's one of the rich MAGA hat wearers, I think. And I think Elizabeth is, she's gonna step away from politics to be like Elizabeth Warren's, like press secretary.
Yeah. And to Jessica's face, they constantly have an argument about politics.
Totally.
But as soon as anybody talks shit about Trump supporters and how they just can't relate to them and they hate them and this like liberal
Elizabeth
thing that we
jumps
do
in.
where Elizabeth jumps in. It's like they're not all like that. Like they have a point, which is it's a
like we need to hear their side of it, so I'm going to do another expose on Trump supporters in rural Pennsylvania.
Or what might be even more Elizabeth is if she's totally on that bandwagon until it's directed at Jessica. And then she's like, no, but Jessica has her own reasons.
Yeah, in Sweet Valley High, number 716... Like, I think they get into
she's
that.
Like, her second husband was a coal miner. Yeah. You don't understand.
Right. She has sympathy.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what will bring the country back together. Oh,
I would like that. Yeah. That would be nice. Yeah.
We're being torn apart.
I mean, since I have this platform, such as it is, of the podcast, I guess I'll say, I think that as much as I find it difficult often to relate to especially the president, who I find reprehensible, and many of people who support him, I don't think that shutting down lines of communication and being constitutionally unwilling to listen to other people's perspectives is an effective way to have anything change in the country.
I think we can go back to what you were saying about the recurring theme that you're drawing from Sweet Valley High, which is communication. And if we know anything, a lack of communication leads to sabotaging your friends' relationships and hiding drugs in a box, saying cheesy lines on beaches in an effort to win people over when you're being insincere. I think if these characters had just communicated, maybe America would not be so polarized.
We as a country need to stop hiding our drugs in a box under the sink.
Yeah, and just talk. And just talk it out, guys.
Mark, thank you so much for joining me today.
You for having me.
Listeners, thank you for listening.
Yay.
I would love to have a review of the podcast on iTunes, or even just a rating, which is so quick and easy to do from your mobile device. It's very helpful. The show doesn't have a ton of ratings yet, but I know that you're listening, and I really appreciate it. On Twitter, you can find me at Sweet Valley. And I guess I want to say I've been a little bit hard on Twitter over the past several episodes, and I realized this actually taught me something about myself, that rather than just be angry at Twitter for maybe being a source of a lot of kind of poisonous rhetoric, that I could actually try and put something positive out into it, since I was unwilling to remove myself from it.
Yeah.
So my own account, my last name, @Flaxbart, what I've been doing for the past week or so here and there is tweeting stories about strangers that I meet, which is something that happens to me a lot. I have interactions with strangers. Strangers talk to me. And so I have been doing that. So you can follow me @Flaxbart. And of course on Instagram @Sweet Valley Diaries. Send me an email, sweetvalleydiaries@me.com. And Mark, you got anything people need to check out of your stuff?
I've got a thing coming up with LA Theater Works that's going to be broadcast on, well, I guess it'll be before this podcast is released, but it should still be available online. It's a play that we did called Spill about the Deepwater Horizon. It's got a really great group of actors involved.
And that's going to be something online?
Yeah, it'll
Great.
be a radio play that's online and being broadcast on.
Cool. I can put a link to it in the show notes for the episode. Yeah.
Thanks. And voting. Is this going to be coming up before the election?
No.
Okay, well, vote in 2020. This is the first radio plea you will hear to vote in the upcoming election in 2020.
Vote in 2020.
Vote in
And
2020.
anytime. Thanks so much.
So does that mean meet Miss America?
Do these kids go to classes?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay.